Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. Well, I finally got around to watching the first season of Luke Cage on Netflix, so how is it? First of all, keep in mind this is spoiler free, so you don't need to worry about spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. But essentially, in typical Marvel Netflix fashion, it's extremely good. But is it better than Daredevil or Jessica Jones? Well, it's hard to say. Luke Cage has a great, well-written story, interesting and memorable characters, fantastic music, and some pretty great fight scenes to boot as well. Something that kind of surprised me about Luke Cage was how slow-paced it was. It was never boring or anything like that, but it definitely did move at a slower pace than the other Netflix shows did, which is good. It needed that. It allowed it to take its time to build characters and story. The opening of Daredevil was great. It got you interested in the characters in the first 5 minutes. It had action and all that. Luke Cage opens in Pop's barber shop, where a bunch of Harlem residents are sitting around getting their hair cut, talking to each other about normal stuff. It may sound boring in comparison, but it's actually very good. Luke Cage is definitely a lot more community focused than the other shows, just like the early review said. It has a very different feel to it compared to the other Netflix shows. Daredevil and Jessica Jones were both very different from each other, but they still had their similarities. With Luke Cage, it's a totally different style of story delivery, but a fantastic one. But something that the Marvel and Netflix shows have gained a reputation for is having extremely well-written villains. So, how does Luke Cage hold up in that department? Well, it actually has a couple of villains in it. I suppose Cottonmouth is the main villain, but characters like Mariah Dillard and Shades definitely feel just as important. But they're all incredible characters, especially Cottonmouth and Dillard. A lot of early reviews said that Luke Cage's story was kind of predictable and cliche, but I actually disagree with that a lot. They were judging by the first 7 episodes, of course, but I thought the story took a lot of twists and turns, none of which I will spoil, of course. Another criticism it gained is that a lot of times characters would monologue and talk a bit too long, something they said was apparent in Marvel's other Netflix shows. I can see that in Daredevil, maybe Jessica Jones, but definitely not in Luke Cage. Everything the characters said was exactly what they should have, and it never felt like they went on too long or anything. As far as ties to the rest of the MCU go, there are actually quite a few. Of course we see Claire again, but we also get cameos from Turk Barrett, Trish Walker, Blake Tower, and more. One thing I really wanted to bring up was how awesome Misty Knight was. Simone Missick played her perfectly. She was one of the best things about this show. It was interesting because she seemed to have a superpower of her own of sorts, but it wasn't made 100% clear if it is a power or if it's just a special skill she has. But really, everyone was fantastic, especially Mike Colter. Of course, I have to criticize it, but the problem is, there really isn't anything I can think of. I guess there are some minor pacing issues here and there, but while in Daredevil Season 2, that stuck out like a sore thumb, in this it doesn't interfere with the story or the flow, so it's not even that much of an issue. I thought the story was great, with plenty of twists and turns to keep you on your toes, and the characters are fantastic. The music was great, it was all good. It's definitely a 5 out of 5, but to answer the question I proposed at the beginning, is it the best Marvel Netflix series? Like I said then, it's hard to say. I think it's definitely better than Daredevil Season 2, but what about Season 1 and Jessica Jones? At the end of the day, I think personally Daredevil, or at least the first season, is better in my opinion. But I do think that Luke Cage might just be better than Jessica Jones in a couple of ways. But what do you think? Have you seen Luke Cage yet? Let me know what you thought in the comment section below if you have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And by the way, I'm posting a spoilers discussion video as well. So if you have seen Luke Cage and want to see my spoilers discussion, there will be a link at the end card and in the description.